Hello again. Now, today we will talk about William Shakespeare, particularly his sonnets. We have, I think, 5 or 6 maybe sonnets written by William Shakespeare to talk about today. So I'm sure William Shakespeare, as you know, is the most famous person from English literature. I mean, even people who don't know anything about English literature, who have read nothing from English literature, have at least heard his name. As I have told you, I'm just going to be talking about his sonnets. A sonnet is a kind of a poem with 14 lines, which was popular during the Renaissance. And it's actually this sonnet, this form, this sonnet genre is actually an Italian genre, which was created by Petrarch, an Italian poet. And as you know, Renaissance spread gradually to the rest of Europe. It started in Italy, but then it gradually spread to the rest of Europe. And the literary forms, literary fashions, which became popular in Italy, eventually made their way to England as well. So William Shakespeare was not the first English person to write sonnets in England, but he was probably the most famous one. So let's again start by an introduction to his life. As you can see here, he was born in 1564 and he died in 1616. So he was a playwright, I mean, which means a person who wrote plays, and he was also a poet. He was born in Stratford-on-Avon to John Shakespeare, who was a leather worker and who was also mayor for a very short time, and his mother was Mary Arden Shakespeare. Well, although there is no record of his having gone to school, he probably went to a local grammar school where he learned Latin, where he learned rhetoric. Well, rhetoric is the rhetoric is how to be persuasive. Okay, how to be persuasive and how to argue a case. And he also studied classical literature in the grammar school as well. Well, what Shakespeare did after leaving school and before going up to London, well, it was sometime in the mid 1580s, is not known. Although it was reported that he taught Latin at a grammar school before coming to London and before becoming a playwright. Also, his activities between 1585, I mean, the year where his twin son and daughter were born, and the year and 1592, the year where he was where he actually started writing, it's not known. Okay, so scholars believe that Shakespeare's first play was written in the first year of this decade, I mean 1590s. It's a commonly held belief that Shakespeare left his family and he moved to London to become to have a career in theater around this time. It's likely that Shakespeare began his career in the theater as an actor. Okay, he probably acted. So before becoming a playwright, he was an actor. Well, it was common. It was common at the time that because playwrights often took an active role in all aspects of their production. So those times were not, I mean, there was usually not a separation between the actors and the playwrights. I mean, there was not so much professionalism. Okay, so Shakespeare most likely had a financial stake in his drama, considering his name does not appear in other business records of the time. I mean, he probably earned some money only from this theater company. He was a member of two well-known acting groups of the time. The first man is the Chamberlain's Men, and then the King's Men. These were professional groups of actors who acted, okay? So he was a member of these two very well-known acting groups. The rise of the public theater, where people, people paid money to watch drama. These times coincides with Shakespeare's early successes. Anyway, Shakespeare wrote at least 35 plays, and many sonnets and some other short poems. He wrote 154 sonnets. Again, a sonnet is a specific type of poem in 14 lines, and it was invented by Petrarch, the Italian poet. The first of those sonnets were written in 1609, and these sonnets explore many themes such as love, duty, or death, or divinity. And these topics make his work timeless and universal. He also wrote some other narrative poems, which are longer poems, which tell a story instead of telling a feeling. These narrative poems tell a story. Their names are Venus and Adonis, which was published in 1593. The Rape of Lucrece, which was published in 1594. These were the things that were published in his lifetime. In 1623, the first complete collection of Shakespeare's plays was published. He's famous. Shakespeare is really famous even today because his words still seem fresh and exciting to people across many cultures. By the end of his career, Shakespeare had become quite rich, and he bought properties in London, and he was considered by his equals, by his friends, to be one of the greatest writers in England. He was considered as the greatest English writer by other writers as well. He died at the age of 52. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about his life, because next year in poetry class, again, this is a class that I teach. In poetry class, you will have more detailed information about him, and also you have a separate course called Shakespeare as well, where you will have the chance to learn more about him, his style, his plays mostly. Okay, but I will, as I have told you, I'm going to be focusing on his sonnets. So let's start talking about the sonnets. So the first sonnet that we have is Sonnet 18. So, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. So again, here we have the speaker talking to a person, and he says, should I compare to a summer's day? Well, if I want to compare you to a summer's day, I believe you are lovelier and more moderate, more mild. Moderate in temperature. So temperate means both, temperate weather, for example, actually means moderate temperature, better temperature, good weather. And also being temperate as a personality trait means somebody who is gentle, who is not angry. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. but thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. Well, this is a lot to digest. So let me try to explain these lines in a better way. So even in May, so rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. Even in May, in the month of May, rough winds shake the delicate flower buds. And the duration of summer is always too short. Sometimes the eye of heaven, the too hot, the eye of heaven shines. The eye of heaven is the sun. Okay, sun was frequently referred to as the eye of heaven in those times. Sometimes the sun, the eye of heaven, is too hot, and his golden face is often dimmed. So complexion means face is dimmed, and beauty falls away from beautiful people, stripped by chance or nature's changing course. So sometimes we lose our beauty. I mean, just because of chance. For example, we had an accident and we lost our beauty. Okay, we got burned, for example, or we had a terrible accident and our beauty is lost. Or nature's changing course. Nature's changing course refers to old age. Okay, so age makes us uglier. But your eternal summer will not fade, nor will you lose possession of the beauty that you own. So, nor will death be able to boast that you wander in his shade. So death cannot, even sun, even the beauty of the weather is temporary, but your beauty is not something which is temporary. When you live in eternal lines, set apart from time, by eternal lines, he actually refers to these lines, this poem. So long as man can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So it means as long as men breathe or they have eyes to see, as long as this sonnet lives, it will give life to you. So you will maybe, even though you are quite beautiful, every beautiful thing loses its beauty, and you are no exception, because this sonnet that I have written for you will make you immortal. I mean, or at least this sonnet is going to immortalize your beauty, even though you will bodily become ugly and old and weak, you will stay frozen in time in my sonnet. So the aging, the passage of time, the loss of beauty, these are some of the common themes that you will see in many of Shakespeare's sonnets. Okay. So what is next? It is sonnet 29. So let me read it for you, and then I'm going to try to explain it. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's arts, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contended least. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising, from sullen earth sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. As probably you have noticed, in the first poem in Sonnet 18. So these two last lines. So long as man can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives last life to thee. And here, for thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. So these lines are written in a different way. So it's they are indented to the right a little bit, a couple of millimeters. So it means that these parts, these last two lines, are the resolution. So in these first 12 lines, Shakespeare in these sonnets, he proposes a problem. For example, what was the problem in the first sonnet? It was the passage of time and the loss of beauty. But then in the last two lines, we learned that he has a solution. Shakespeare has a solution to this problem. And what is this problem? The power of literature. The power of literature is going to stop your aging. People will not remember you as an old person, but they will remember you as beautiful all the time, because I have immortalized your beauty here. So again, we have the same thing in Sonnet 29 as well. So these last two lines are written indented, and it implies that this is the solution part. Okay, so let's try to paraphrase what he's trying to say. So I'm not going to go back and forth between the paraphrase and the original poem. I'm just going to try to paraphrase the poem as I go along. So what he says is, when I have bad luck and people think little of me, all alone I cry about being unwanted, and I disturb heaven with cries that fall on deaf ears. And I look at my life and I curse my fate. I wish I were someone with better chances, someone with a beautiful face or many friends. I wish I were more beautiful, or I wish I had more friends, desiring one man's skill or another man's range of skills, satisfied least by the things I actually possess. But when I most hate myself for these thoughts, by good fortune, happily, by chance, by good fortune, I think about you. So I have all those problems. I'm envious. I'm jealous of other people. I don't like my fortune. I don't like my chances. I hate my life. But then suddenly, happily, I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising. So in this part, he says, even though these bad thoughts occur to my mind, suddenly I think about you, and then I feel like the lark is a bird, like the lark at the break of the day rising from the gloomy earth to sing in the skies. The memory of your sweet love brings such richness to me that in that moment I would not change place with kings. So if in these bad times when I'm depressed, suddenly I remember you, and even though I was wishing that I used to wish that I was somebody else, somebody who was richer, somebody who was more beautiful, somebody who had more friends, as soon as I begin thinking about you, then I decide that I'm happy with myself because I have you, and I wouldn't want to change my position with even kings. Okay, I'm luckier than kings because even though they are rich, even though they're handsome, even though they have many friends, I have you, and I am better than a king. Okay, sonnet 116. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love is not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come, love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. All right. So let's try to focus in a more detailed way. So let me paraphrase this poem for you. Let me try to explain it to you. Well, let me not to the marriage of two true minds accept or let in any obstacles. Love is not love if it changes when it encounters any changes. So if you find that other person, if you see that this other person changes, and if you stop loving him or her, then it means that you were not in love. So love is fixed. That's what he's trying to say. Or agrees to withdraw when another removes his love. So if somebody else, if this other person, that if the person you love stops loving you, then if you stop loving this person because he or she stopped loving you, then you were not in love at all. Okay, so again, let me summarize again. So if this girl or boy gets old, or he suddenly changes in some other way, not only about looks, but in some other way, and if you stop loving him or her, then it means that you were not in love. Or this boy or girl stopped loving you, and you stopped loving him as a result, then it means that you were not in love in the first place. Oh no, love is a mark always fixed in place, that looks down on storms and is never shaken. So love stands even the worst storms. That's what he's saying. It is the star, love is the star that guides every boat which are lost at sea, whose worth is unknown, although its height can be measured. Love is not time's fool, although rosy lips and cheeks come within the range of time's sickle. So sickle is actually the symbol for the Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper is like the angel of death, okay, who visits people when they're about to die. So love is not the time's fool, although rosy lips and cheeks come within the range of time's sickle. Love does not change with time's short hours and weeks, but love endures even until the edge of death. If this is untrue, so we are now at the conclusion part. If this is untrue and I am proved wrong, then I never wrote and no man ever loved. So if these things that I have just said about the persistency of love, the fixed position of love. So love can never grow old. Love can never grow less. If it grows old, if it stops, if it grows less, then it wasn't love at the beginning. So this is the problem. So, but if I am at this solution, if this is untrue and I am proved wrong, I never wrote and no man ever loved. So I wrote and people love each other. So that is a fancy way of saying that all those things that I have just previously mentioned are actually true. Okay, so that's what Sonnet 116 was about. All right, Sonnet 130. This is a famous one, by the way. This is a very famous one. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips is red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun? If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked, red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music had a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. So this is a very complex poem, actually, but it's actually very cute. So at the time when Shakespeare wrote, the other sonnet writers wrote in cliches. It was like always so the sonnets are usually written to a lady. The sonnet tradition is usually the sonnets are usually about love, and they usually describe a woman that the speaker is in love with, and these women are always compared to the sun. Okay, so these women are always like the sun, if or their breasts are very pale white, and their hair is usually compared to wires, or their faces are compared to roses, their lips are compared to roses, their breath is usually compared to perfumes. Okay, so and so forth. So these are very cliched things. What Shakespeare does here is that he makes fun of those cliches. That's why he starts his poem like, my mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun, because that is how most of the sonnet writers, other than Shakespeare, define their girlfriend's eyes. They usually say, my girlfriend's eyes are like the sun. But here he says, my mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is a valuable red stone. He says coral is far redder than the red of her lips. If snow is white, then her breasts are brown. If hairs are wires, by the way, he means golden wires. Okay, at the time, wire referred to golden ornaments, golden wires. If hairs are wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen damask roses. Damask means pink rose. I have seen damask roses, red and white, but I do not see the color of roses in her cheeks. And some perfumes are more delightful. Some perfumes are better than the breath of my mistress. I love to hear her speak, but I also know that music has a much more pleasing sound. I admit I never saw a goddess walking, because I mean the other cliche is that my mistress walks like a goddess. It's like she is flying instead of walking like all the regular girls. My mistress, my wife, my girlfriend, whatever, my lover is like a goddess, and it's like she flies. Okay, this was the cliche, but Shakespeare says something else. I believe I never saw a goddess walking, because when she walks, when my mistress walks, she steps on the ground, she treads on the ground. Okay, so what he did so far is that he said that my mistress is just an ordinary woman. So this is quite shocking at the time. I mean, it's quite shocking because when you read a sonnet, you expect that the sonneteer or the sonnet writer is going to boast about or praise his girlfriend, his mistress, his wife, whatever. So, but he does the opposite thing. Okay, he says my mistress is just an ordinary woman. So how is he going to fix this in the last two lines? Okay, and yet by heaven I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. Okay, what does it mean? But by heaven and by God, it means by God, I think my love as rare as any other woman misrepresented by false comparisons. So these false comparisons that the other sonnet writers make are not valuable because they are not rare. That's what he's saying. My love is rare because it is ordinary. That's what he's actually saying. Because if you look at those sonnet writers, you see that every woman has eyes like the sun. Every woman's lips are better or redder than the coral. Every other woman's breasts are like snow. But once every woman becomes like this, they lose their rarity. Okay, it doesn't become something special. Well, every woman is like a goddess. But then being normal, being regular becomes more valuable because it is rare. That's what Shakespeare says here. All right, that was a taste, again, that was a taste of Shakespeare's poetry, Shakespeare's sonnets specifically. Thanks for listening.